Let's turn our attention to the ugly of this week, and it is the San Francisco 49ers. They are in a pickle at the minute, with rumors circulating that Kyle Shanahan may be traded to the Chicago Bears in the offseason, their head coach. We should note that Kyle Shanahan has quashed these rumors, but it still remains a very interesting topic. I mean, injuries have plagued the 49ers, who are now at 6-8 after their embarrassing loss to the Rams on Thursday Night Football. And since the bye week in week 9, they're now 2-4. I mean, injury-wise, I actually have a list here of their injury report. And
quite substantial.
I am not going to read it all because it will take us a while. But on IR, they currently have Brandon Ayuk, Ben Barch, Tatum Bethune, Joe Feliciano, Kevin Gibbons, Javon Hargrave, Darrell Lutter, Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Georgia Doom, Curtis Robinson, Ambry Thomas, Mitch Wishnowski, the punter. And then in just questionable territory a lot of the season, Trent Williams, Malik Mustafa, Dre Greenlaw, Khalil Davis, Jaleel Brown, Devondre Campbell now being suspended after his antics, which I actually don't know all that much about, admittedly, because I've not really read up on it. Could be an interesting one to talk about. But I've not actually read up what's going on with that. But yeah, I mean, it's going all quite wrong for the 49ers. I think this is actually like a really fun rumor and fun idea.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do think the 49ers are at a point now where they're like, we've spent a lot of money on a lot of guys, and it may be that reset time before we have to re-sign Purdy, or do we stick with Purdy? I just think 49ers has posed such an interesting question of what next.
Yeah. I just got a fun stat before we get started. Some players with exactly one receiving touchdown this season: Deebo Samuel, quarterback Josh Allen, quarterback Jared Goff, quarterback Bo Nix, defensive tackle Dan Skipper, Trenton Scott, defensive end Sam Hubbard, O-line Wanya Morris. Deebo Samuel is in some weird, illustrious company on one receiving touchdown this season, and I think that tells you a lot about where the 49ers are at the moment. I don't know. They've been really unlucky with the injuries. Let's just get that out of the way first. Not like every team isn't struggling at this time of year, but that list that you read out would cripple any team. Any team would be struggling with that. The Kyle Shanahan thing is really interesting because whilst you could consider maybe trading Kyle Shanahan, I mean, he's the modern nearly man, isn't he? He's always nearly there. He's always so close to winning that Super Bowl, but just can't quite get over the line. Can the 49ers have Brock Purdy without Kyle Shanahan? Are the two not too closely married now, where I'm not saying that Purdy is completely a system quarterback guy, but all he's known is that system. And he really works for him. And when it's on and everybody's healthy, it is incredible to watch. I just don't know if the 49ers would be very, very nervous about moving on from Kyle Shanahan and signing Brock Purdy to a long-term, very expensive deal, which you are going to have to do. However, if you sign Purdy and keep Shanahan, you're kind of tying yourself to not only the quarterback, but the coach for a considerable duration, I think. Is it possible to have one without the other in this, but Purdy without Shanahan for the 49ers, for example? I don't know. It doesn't feel like it would work for me. I don't know about you.
No, I agree. I mean, the Broncos traded for Sean Payton. They traded a 2023 first, 2024 second, and Sean Payton went with a 2024 third. If the Bears were going to trade for him, I think they're going to pay more in terms of draft capital. And I think it only entirely benefits the Bears. Like, unless the 49ers, I mean, you look at the coaching tree of Shanahan's had since they've left. It's been really good. It's been good for the most part. Even though people like Rob Saleh got sacked, I still argue he should never have been. D'Amico Ryan in Houston's doing all right, but not great. I mean, he's had a few good guys going, but when you look at the coaching landscape, there's not really that many better offensive minds than Kyle Shanahan, which is the worry. Is Brock Purdy a product of Kyle Shanahan's system, or is Brock Purdy actually just like, gosh darn talented? You would argue he is not that talented with how they've been playing, but with the injuries they've had, yes, any team would be crippled. But the problem is this team gets injured fairly frequently, a lot, and it bites them a lot. And like you said, every team gets injured, and it's still being able to perform. And I don't know. And again, you're right with that. Like, it's the nearly thing. They're just always nearly there. They're always just nearly there. And he's probably not been on the tip of everyone's tongue as much as being a coaching candidate that could go, whether it be they fire him or trade. I think everyone feels very confident that the 49ers are invested in Shanahan, but it is a nearly thing a lot of the time. And things have probably got to change. I think they've tied themselves into a bit of a knot here with how they've set up their team and franchise for the next, what was the next 4 years, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And I think now you get to an off season where you go, right, what we're going to do here? Well, we've got to reset somewhere. They're not going to, if they're going to sign Purdy to a long-term deal, you can't keep CMC, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, George Kittle. You can't keep all these guys. You're going to have to move this all around. Someone's going to be on the chopping block. And a lot of these guys got older. A lot of these guys are getting older. It's not a youthful team anymore. It's 49ers team. So do you reset with Shanahan and Purdy at the helm? I would. If I was them, I would do that. But I think it poses an incredibly interesting question for Shanahan to go to the Bears that have got a multitude of draft picks, a very young, talented quarterback, a decent defense, some decent offensive weapons as well. They just need the guy to get it all figured out. I think that's explosive. That'd be an explosive team, and it'd be a fun team to watch. And I find that really intriguing.
Yeah, it's massively intriguing. And I think if you are Kyle Shanahan, you would really struggle to talk yourself out of that if you weren't already in San Francisco with a lot of the pieces around you.
I think it would take a monumental falling out and disagreement of ideologies with the franchise and him for that to happen.
I completely agree. I mean, you were saying about the team getting older. You're right. I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan himself just looks like this season has aged him, man. Like, the hair's gone really grey, the beard's gone really grey. He just looks tired all the time. Like when he goes on the podium, he looks just drained and lethargic. But it's been a tough season for everyone at that organization. I think it started with difficulties and it's going to end in much the same vein. I think there are guys there that you can move on from. You're looking at the wide receiver room. I know you've only recently signed Debo, but he's not making the impact whilst other players have been out. So it's possible that you can convince somebody to take him and move on from him.
Someone like the Pittsburgh Steelers would be, we were all ears for Brandon Ayuk in the offseason. I would take Debo Samuel in a heartbeat.
And I think you would keep Ayuk over Samuel, and obviously they drafted Ricky Pearsall as well, who's show flashes, and other guys have stepped up, and they do seem to. Kyle Shanahan has got this knack. Running back this year, they're down to like the third string, fourth string guy, and he still seems to be able to make things work. It's not quite all there because the pieces don't fit the system that he's used to running. The Chicago have to give up a lot, and I just don't know if they've got enough capital to be able to give to San Francisco to say, we want this guy, we want him, and we need him out for the next few years. And like I say, at the moment, more than anything, I could see Kyle Shanahan, if his contract came to an end, I'm not too sure how much longer he's got left on his contract, but I could see him taking a break from football rather than jumping straight back in with a different team, because these few years, since he left Atlanta for San Francisco, obviously his time at Atlanta as well, nearly with this in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and a couple of Super Bowls with the 49ers where he's just not quite been able to get over the line. I just think he perhaps would want to step back and take some sort of self-evaluation time before he jumps in bed with another team. So I don't think the 49ers move on from him. I think they tie him and Purdy together and hope that the injury situation isn't as bad as it's going to be this year. It seems like that would almost be impossible. And see if you can restructure some guys and move some guys around, and maybe get younger. Use the draft, use free agency to look at some younger players in those key positions and see if you can do more there.
Well, who wouldn't want to play Shanahan the 49ers? Like, they're an iconic franchise and he's an iconic coach. So let's